General Motors. That stock's up. Its profit in North America jumped 33%.
$80,000 trucks are being dumped for 20, and dealers are begging you to take them.
It's getting harder every week to find new pickup trucks for sale.
Lots that once looked like fortresses now look like graveyards. Every unsold truck bleeds $50 a day in interest, and the desperation is spilling into discounts they swore you'd never see. So why are prices cratering so fast? Who's really eating the losses, and how much of that collapse will land in your driveway? By the end, you'll know. This isn't just a sale, it's a surrender. The $80,000 lie exposed. They told us these trucks were worth $80,000. Now they are begging you to take them for 20. For years, dealerships treated pickups like crown jewels, piling on markups as if supply was scarce, and buyers would always pay more. Customers lined up, sometimes waiting months, while salesmen strutted with confidence that these machines were untouchable. Today, those same lots look like graveyards. Rows of shiny trucks sit idle, collecting dust, while managers whisper about the daily cost of keeping them unsold. Every morning a truck stays parked. It costs the dealer money in interest. Instead of profit, the inventory has become a ball and chain. Buyers who once feared scarcity now smell desperation. You walk onto a lot, and suddenly rebates, hidden for years, appear like magic. Trucks once listed for $80,000 are being dumped for a fraction of that price, just to stop the financial bleeding. The same dealers who bragged about long wait lists now beg you to take one home, offering trade-in bonuses and financing gimmicks that barely disguise their panic. They marked these trucks up like gold, and now they cannot give them away. What looks like a sale is really a surrender, proof that the system cracked under its own arrogance. But the real betrayal goes beyond today's sticker shock. The collapse of prices is only the surface. The deeper wound lies in the promises made about tomorrow's technology. Promises that were supposed to carry us into the future, and the future they promised, it failed you. The EV fantasy that failed you. They said the Lightning was the future until it died halfway through towing your boat. The electric truck was marketed as destiny, the moment when work vehicles would leap into a new age. Executives told us that waiting lists would stretch forever, that charging was easy, and that electric torque would change everything. What they did not tell us was what happened when real families actually used them. Hook up a trailer, drive in cold weather, or simply push the truck on a long trip, and the range collapsed like a punctured balloon. What was sold as confidence became constant anxiety. Buyers quickly learned the ugly truth. A truck that cannot haul without losing nearly half its range is not a workhorse. It is a driveway ornament. Charging stations were scarce, repairs dragged on for weeks, and resale values sank faster than the batteries inside. Customers like Sarah in Michigan called it a $75,000 science experiment, and her voice echoed what many others were already whispering. We were used as guinea pigs. Dealers who ordered aggressively now bleed money as unsold Lightnings rot on asphalt, each one burning through $40 or $50 in carrying costs every single day. And if the so-called future trucks disappointed, the humiliation did not stop there. The failures of the electric gamble opened the door to another disaster, because if the forward-looking models could not deliver, then the ultra-luxury flagships built to project power and prestige fell even harder. What came next embarrassed both brands and buyers alike. If this collapse already hits home for you, hit the like button so more people see what's really happening. And drop a comment. Your story could be the warning someone else needs before they walk into the same trap. Luxury pride, dealer shame. That six-figure Hummer that was supposed to scream status, now it screams desperation. When General Motors unveiled the Hummer EV, the company framed it as a technological flex, a halo truck that would prove American dominance in design and power. The price tag soared well into six figures, rivaling European exotics, and dealers were promised that wealthy buyers would fight for the privilege of owning one. But reality was merciless. The trucks weighed more than some dump trucks, chewed through $400 tires, and delivered real-world range under load closer to 150 miles. Buyers with deep pockets realized quickly that prestige does not replace practicality. Today, many of those Hummers sit untouched for over 100 days, their tires gathering dust while floor plan interest devours dealer profits. Managers quietly admit they would rather give them away than keep paying to store them. Escalade IQs follow the same path. Expensive, overstuffed monuments to corporate hubris that shoppers stroll past without a glance. The so-called pride of the brand became its shame. A reminder that arrogance is expensive and patience is thin. Dealers who once puffed their chests now swallow losses, forced to slash prices and watch margins vanish. They tried to flex on you, and now they are the ones humiliated. But the deepest cut did not come from luxury toys. It came from the very machines working families depended on every single day. The collapse reached the heart of the workhorse itself, and the betrayal stung even more. The diesel betrayal. For years, diesels were bulletproof. Now they limp into shops like wounded dogs. Farmers, contractors, and fleets built their lives around heavy-duty pickups, trusting them to haul, tow, and endure endless punishment. That trust has been shattered. Modern emission systems turned reliable engines into fragile machines. Simple sensor failures send trucks into limp mode. Injectors collapse at 30,000 miles. Repairs climb into the thousands before the warranty book is even half finished. The trucks meant to be unbreakable now break their owners. Fleet managers in the Midwest complain about entire lines of diesels sitting useless in yards, costing them contracts and credibility. Families who saved for years to buy a heavy-duty Ram or Ford find themselves staring at repair bills that rival mortgage payments. The machine that once defined toughness now defines frustration. And as word spreads, buyers grow cautious, demanding discounts so steep the dealers choke on their inventory. Trucks once considered safe investments now look like liabilities, bleeding trust along with money. They broke the one machine we trusted, and they did it knowingly. This was not an accident of fate or bad luck. It was designed fragility, engineered complexity that betrayed the very people who kept the industry alive. And the cost of that betrayal will not end here. It will spread into every conversation, every contract, and every future purchase. Because when the workhorse itself fails, the entire barn begins to collapse. Engines that eat themselves. Cylinder deactivation was not a feature. It was a time bomb. Engineers promised it would save fuel by shutting down half the cylinders when power was not needed, but the gamble turned trusted engines into grenades waiting to explode. Owners of General Motors trucks discovered the truth the hard way. Lifters collapsed with shocking regularity, dragging camshafts down with them and leaving engines ruined at 60,000 miles or less. What was sold as progress became a highway to bankruptcy. Buyers who paid $80,000 for a truck never expected $4,000 to $6,000 repairs before the odometer even hit six figures. Service departments filled with angry customers, and forums lit up with story after story of failures. Families who thought they were buying security ended up buying months of stress, begging for loaners while their trucks sat torn apart. The promise of efficiency evaporated, replaced by resentment that could not be fixed with rebates or extended warranties. What makes it worse is the silence. Automakers knew about these failures for years, yet they buried complaints, blamed drivers, and issued half-hearted service bulletins instead of real fixes. It was never about protecting customers. It was about protecting profits. That silence turned a design flaw into a betrayal of trust. This was not just a technical misstep, it was a betrayal. They sold you efficiency, but delivered repair bills. And while lifters and cams self-destructed, automakers were not finished. They stacked even more fragility on top of that, layering new systems that doubled complexity and doubled the costs when things went wrong. Hybrids that bankrupt you. They told us hybrids would save us money until the repairs cost more than the payments. The move to hybrid trucks was pitched as a bridge to the future, giving us the best of both worlds: gasoline for reliability, batteries for efficiency, and turbos for power. What buyers got instead was a fragile Frankenstein. Ford's PowerBoost hybrid sounded impressive on paper, yet owners quickly learned that failures in battery cooling systems or electrical controls triggered expensive faults that ordinary mechanics could not diagnose. Repairs dragged on for weeks, leaving families stranded with bills that stretched into the thousands. Toyota, long celebrated for bulletproof reliability, stumbled with its twin-turbo hybrid setup. Timing chain issues, overheating turbos, and limp mode malfunctions haunted owners who expected 300,000-mile engines. Suddenly, the brand that built its reputation on durability was the subject of angry complaints and warranty extensions. And while manufacturers marketed these systems as innovation, the people footing the bill knew better. This was not progress. This was experimentation done on real customers. The insult is not just in the breakdowns, but in the timing. Failures often arrive just after warranties expire, leaving families with repair bills that feel deliberately designed to land when protection runs out. It is hard not to see this as a calculated squeeze, not an accident. The result was cruel irony. Technology designed to save fuel ended up devouring wallets. They experimented on us and called it progress, so people fled to smaller trucks, hoping simplicity would save them. But what they found was the same poison bottled in smaller packages. The midsize Mirage. You paid full-size prices for mid-size junk. Carmakers promised that smaller pickups would be the practical alternative, easier to park, cheaper to own, and simpler to maintain. Instead, buyers discovered that mid-size trucks carried the very same flaws as their larger siblings, just packed tighter and offered at nearly the same sticker price. Chevrolet Colorado and GMC Canyon owners complained of transmission shudders, rear differential failures, and electronics that behaved like beta software. Ford's Ranger reintroduced turbo and transmission problems that should have been fixed years ago. Even Nissan's Frontier, which was supposed to embody simplicity, brought its own chaos with 9-speed transmissions that felt unrefined and dual-clutch options that wore out too quickly. Owners who chose these trucks to avoid complexity found themselves trapped in service bays with repair bills that matched those of larger models. The illusion of saving money shattered when resale values plummeted, leaving drivers stuck with depreciating machines and little confidence in the brands that sold them. They promised simplicity, but gave us smaller headaches for the same money. Mid-size trucks, once considered the safe choice, turned into another trap. And some trucks were not merely flawed, they were abandoned altogether, leaving their buyers stranded with orphans that nobody wanted to claim. Orphaned and abandoned. Imagine buying a truck, then finding out the company killed it. That was the fate of Nissan Titan owners. The Titan, once hyped as a full-size contender, was quietly sentenced to death after years of weak sales. Dealers now sit on orphaned inventory, trucks that depreciate faster than anything else on their lots. Buyers know what it means: poor parts availability, falling resale value, and little long-term support. Owning a discontinued model feels less like pride and more like punishment. Ram tried to squeeze dollars from the past by selling the Classic, an older platform recycled alongside newer models. But the Classic was a relic, saddled with outdated interiors, rough rides, and persistent lifter problems. Buyers quickly realized they were paying modern prices for yesterday's engineering. Hyundai's Santa Cruz attempted something different, blending crossover comfort with pickup utility, but ended up pleasing no one. Its transmission faltered, its bed was too small, and its identity too confused to inspire loyalty. These trucks, orphaned and abandoned, are more than sales misfires. They are betrayals that leave owners holding the bag, stuck with vehicles nobody else wants. They sold us orphans and walked away. But the real collapse is not mechanical. It is personal, and it cuts directly into the lives of families, workers, and communities. Families suffocated by payments, $1,200 payments, $4,000 repairs. That is not ownership. It is a trap. For decades, families dreamed of the day they could finally drive home a new truck, seeing it as proof they had made it. Now that dream feels like financial suffocation. Interest rates have pushed monthly payments to levels that crush household budgets. Groceries, rent, and gas already drain wallets, yet a new pickup now demands more than many people pay for housing. What once symbolized pride has turned into a chain around the neck. The betrayal deepens when repairs strike. Imagine paying nearly $1,200 every month, only to face a sudden $4,000 bill for a turbo or injector failure. Contractors miss jobs, families miss paychecks, and the trucks that were supposed to serve end up draining the very people who trusted them. It is no wonder buyers are holding on to old rigs longer, keeping trucks from the early 2000s running, rather than financing fragile new machines. We are not financing security. We are financing failure. The worst part is knowing the pressure is deliberate. Automakers hiked prices while layering fragile technology, confident that buyers would stretch their wallets until something broke. Something has broken, and while families drown in debt, the pain does not stop there, because as households suffocate, the dealers themselves are now bleeding red ink behind their polished showrooms. Dealers drowning in debt. Behind the smile, every truck on the lot is bleeding them $50 a day. Walk past the polished glass of any dealership and you will see rows of unsold pickups. But what you do not see is the silent clock ticking down profits. Every day, a truck sits unsold, racks up floor plan interest. Financing charges the dealer pays just to keep that machine on the books. A truck that stays 100 days devours thousands of dollars before a buyer ever sets foot inside. Managers who once bragged about selection now whisper about survival. Sales staff are ordered to move the oldest trucks first, even if it means wiping away profit margins. Discounts appear where markups once ruled. Trade-in values are slashed to protect balance sheets, and hidden fees are stuffed into contracts to claw back pennies. Behind every handshake is desperation. For once, they are the ones begging, and buyers hold the leverage. Yet the pressure does not end at the local lot. Corporate offices monitor throughput, punishing stores that fail to move units. Even when the market has collapsed, dealers are trapped between the factory's demands and the customer's hesitation, squeezed until something snaps. And when the dealers buckle, the damage seeps upward into boardrooms, forcing executives to make choices they swore they would never make. You've seen how deep this goes, and we're only halfway down. If you want the truth while others stay blind, hit subscribe right now. Stay with us, because the next chapters expose what they'll never admit publicly. Executives retreat. While we bleed, they bragged about billion-dollar expansions. Now they are canceling projects and cutting shifts in your town. Just a few years ago, executives strutted across stages promising endless growth. They poured money into new plants in Texas and Michigan, betting that trucks and electrics would carry them into a golden age. Today, those same executives sit in meetings slashing budgets, delaying models, and scaling back production. Ford trims Lightning output, General Motors pushes projects into the future, and Volkswagen quietly shifts resources back to safer markets. The numbers are cold, but the impact is personal. Every canceled project means fewer jobs for suppliers, shorter shifts for workers, and towns stripped of paychecks they depended on. It is not the CEOs who suffer. They already cashed their bonuses, celebrating margins built on overpriced trucks and fragile tech. The ones who suffer are the families watching their communities shrink, while corporate leaders retreat. Buyers see the irony clearly. We paid higher prices, absorbed the defects, and carried the loans, only to be rewarded with layoffs in our own backyards. They cashed out while we bled. And when jobs vanish, the damage is not just financial. The cultural meaning of the truck itself begins to unravel, leaving scars no corporate budget can heal. The badge lost its pride. That new truck used to mean respect. Now it means debt and doubt. For generations, driving a shiny pickup was more than transportation. It was a badge of identity, a statement of hard work, independence, and reliability. Advertisements showed cowboys, construction crews, and families conquering the open road with trucks as their companions. Today, that image is shattered. Instead of admiration, a brand new truck often sparks suspicion. Neighbors whisper about how big the payments must be, and friends wonder how long before the transmission or hybrid system fails. Owners who once rushed to trade in every few years now cling to older rigs, proud not of price, but of reliability. The badge no longer shines through chrome and leather. It shines when a 20-year-old truck still fires up and hauls without complaint. The cultural script is flipped. Reliability is pride, not payments. This shift cuts deep for automakers. The very symbol they relied on to market excess has turned into a reminder of their broken promises. Communities once proud of driving American trucks now view them as liabilities, not assets. And that change in identity sets the stage for a bigger reckoning, because when pride collapses, people stop buying the story entirely and start demanding something new. Politicians played us too. One year you get a credit, the next year it vanishes. No wonder nobody trusts this game. For years, government policy has been sold as the stabilizer of the auto market. But for ordinary buyers, it feels like chaos. Electric vehicle credits appear and disappear depending on which party holds power. One year a family can count on $7,500 off, and the next year the same truck is excluded because it was built in the wrong state or sourced the wrong battery. Buyers are left confused. Dealers cannot advertise clear prices, and automakers scramble to adjust overnight. Tariffs add another layer of madness. Imported parts face sudden cost hikes, while state subsidies try to cover the difference in random, inconsistent ways. Families hesitate to buy because they cannot predict what next year's tax return will bring. The rules shift so often that confidence evaporates. For the corporations, policy swings mean recalculated production costs and canceled investments. For workers and buyers, it means broken promises. We are pawns in their chess match, sacrificed whenever politicians decide it is convenient. But pawns do not always stay powerless, because while policies swing like a hammer, something unexpected has happened inside the factories themselves. Workers are starting to realize that this time they hold the real cards. Workers finally fight back. This time, a strike scares them more than it scares us. For decades, unions were treated as relics, their leverage diminished by outsourcing and corporate muscle. But the collapse of truck demand flipped the script. Dealers are already drowning in unsold inventory, and manufacturers are desperate to cut costs. That means even a short strike can devastate the balance sheet. A 2-week walkout does not just slow deliveries, it leaves entire lots bloated with vehicles that nobody wants and piles more losses onto already bleeding ledgers. Workers understand the math. They see managers sweating, knowing that every unsold truck costs $50 a day in interest, while factories sit idle. Suddenly, the threat of a strike carries more weight than at any time in recent memory. Demands for higher wages, stronger benefits, and job security are no longer ignored. Executives cannot afford long disruptions because the market itself is already on shaky ground. Communities around these plants feel the tension. Families debate whether to cling to mortgages, Young workers wonder whether to follow their parents into factory jobs, and local economies balance on the edge. Yet despite the anxiety, there is pride in knowing the tables have turned. For once, the leverage is ours. And while Detroit stumbles under this pressure, rivals from across the ocean are sharpening their knives. Foreign rivals smell blood. Why pay 80 grand when rivals can profit at 20? That is the question foreign automakers are preparing to answer. Companies like BYD in China and SAIC in Shanghai are building trucks at costs American firms cannot touch. By controlling their supply chains, cutting out middlemen, and paying cheaper labor, they can produce pickups for $15,000 and still profit selling them at $20,000. Compare that to Detroit's bloated $30,000 production costs, and the gap is staggering. These rivals are not chasing prestige. They are aiming straight at the middle class, the contractors, families, and small businesses who cannot afford inflated domestic prices. Once tariffs or trade restrictions shift, foreign pickups could flood showrooms, undercutting Ford, General Motors, and Ram in their own backyard. In Europe, the same dynamic threatens Volkswagen. In Latin America and Africa, where affordability is everything, Chinese automakers are poised to dominate for decades. For American consumers, this might feel like relief. Foreign brands can give us what Detroit will not: reliable trucks at honest prices. But for the corporations, it is an existential threat. Rivals smell blood, and they are not just coming for profits. They are coming for market share, culture, and pride. And that is where you come in. Because right now, you finally hold the power. Your revenge, your advantage. This collapse is their nightmare, but it is your chance. For the first time in years, buyers walk into dealerships with the upper hand. Knowledge is leverage, and the rules of the game have changed. The trick is to use their desperation against them. Always ask for the trucks that have been sitting longer than 90 days. Every day on the lot costs them $40 or $50. So by the fourth month, they are already thousands in the hole. That is where your discounts hide. Next, demand written coverage for the fragile systems most likely to fail. Lifters, hybrids, emission components. Do not settle for vague promises. Get it in writing, and never forget the oldest tactic: walk away. Managers fold faster when they know you will not be pressured into signing. Contractors, families, and even first-time buyers are saving $5,000 to $10,000 by forcing dealerships to chase them instead of the other way around. For once, we get to flip the script. We are not powerless in this collapse. We are empowered. Their arrogance built this disaster, and their desperation is what will save us money. And this is just the beginning, because the next swing in this story could change everything again. They built this empire on our trust, and now it's collapsing under its own weight. But the fallout doesn't just hit Wall Street. It lands right here, in your payments, your towns, your future. The only way to stay ahead is knowledge. So share this with someone who needs the wake-up call. Drop your story in the comments and hit subscribe right now, because the next chapter in this collapse is already coming, and you cannot afford to miss it.